Hi everyone, my name is Chitika, and the topic of my presentation today will be MSG and BPA lead to obesity, derived from my master topic of toxic chemicals in our food. Obesity is a growing epidemic worldwide and is expected to exceed smoking as a leading contributor to the burden of chronic disease. According to data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey 2013 to 2014, more than 1 in 3 adults were considered to have obesity. Obesity occurs when a person's body weight is 30 or greater. It's a disorder that involves excessive body fat that increases the chances of serious health problems. A few of the most common symptoms include overweight, binge eating, fatigue, pot belly, and snoring. People are concerned about what exactly causes obesity. Is it just binge eating, or is there more to it? This chart demonstrates the trends in adult overweight, obesity, and extreme obesity among men and women in the United States. As you can see, we have an increasing number of people who fall under each of these categories over the year. Both BPA and MSG have proven to be two of the most toxic chemicals that are being studied lately. We even read an article on BPA as part of an assignment for this class. I'm going to talk about what each of these chemicals are and how they might lead to obesity. So first, BPA stands for bisphenol A. It's an industrial chemical used to make polycarbonate plastics and resins. Polycarbonate plastics are used in containers that are used to store food and beverages, like water bottles, while epoxy resins are used to coat the inside of the metal products, such as food cans, bottle tops, and water supply lines. But how exactly does BPA ends up in our food? Bisphenol A leaches into food through the epoxy resin coatings of canned foods. It can also result in our food due to other consumer products such as polycarbonate tableware, food storage containers, water bottles, and baby bottles. How much BPA ends up in a liquid is determined by its temperature rather than the age of the container. One of the main concerns that arise due to BPA exposure is obesity. Researchers say that body metabolizes bisphenol A into something that impacts our cells and makes us fat. Within 6 hours of exposure, our liver metabolizes about half the concentration. 80 to 90% of BPA is converted into a metabolite called BPA glucuronide. When both mouse and human cells were exposed to BPA glucuronide in a study conducted by the Health Canada, researchers found out that the treated cells had a significant increase in lipid accumulation. Research also suggests that BPA may also affect the brain, behavior, and prostate gland of fetuses, while also being linked to increased blood pressure. Studies have been conducted to show that rats were exposed to BPA. It increased the adipocyte volume, which is associated with an increase in the body weight. Exposure to BPA affects lipid metabolism, which promotes weight gain. Canadian Health performed analysis using biomonitoring 4,733 adults aged 18 to 79 years. They use multinomial and binary logistics regression model to estimate association of urinary BPA with body mass index, categories, and elevated waist circumference. The results showed that urinary BPA was positively related to BMI-defined obesity. However, the FDA has said that BPA is safe at very low levels. While the FDA is continuing its review of BPA, there are steps you can take to reduce your exposure. We can use BPA-free products. Plastics marked with 3 or 7 may be made by BPA. Reduce your use of cans. Avoiding heat. Microwaving polycarbonate plastics may break down over time, causing the BPA to leach into food. And simply using alternatives like glass or stainless steel containers for food. Okay, so now that we have a good understanding of BPA, next we're going to talk about another chemical associated with obesity, which is monosodium glutamate, MSG. We prefer food that is delicious and flavorful. MSG is a flavor enhancer added to Chinese food, canned vegetables, soups, and processed meats. FDA has recognized this ingredient to be generally safe, but it remains controversial due to its reports of adverse reactions to food that contains MSG. These reactions include headache, sweating, facial pressure, numbness or burning in the face and neck, rapid heartbeats, chest pain, nausea, and weakness. Studies have examined a potential link between MSG and body weight, which suggests that MSG might interfere with signaling systems in the body that regulate appetite. It's more than just eating more of that food because it tastes good, although that might also be a factor that leads to obesity. Researchers say that it might have something to do with the hormone leptin, which regulates appetite and metabolism. Eating more MSG produces more leptin, which results in the body not being able to process the energy it receives from the food. MSG may trigger leptin resistance. The only way to avoid any of the symptoms mentioned in the previous slide is to avoid food that contains MSG. Currently, there is very limited data that link both BPA and MSG consumption to obesity. Research suggests possible link between BPA and increased blood pressure, along with effects on the brain. While FDA continues to support ongoing research, in the meantime, we can avoid these possible risks by going BPA-free. On the other hand, monosodium glutamate, MSG, is also an ingredient that needs to be studied more in order to reveal its side effects. However, the studies that have been conducted suggest that MSG could lead to short-term symptoms including headache, chest pain, and nausea, along with long-term effects including obesity. The best way to avoid these symptoms is to avoid eating food with MSG as the flavor enhancer. Thank you.